If you could ever call a company a feel-good brand, Whole Foods grocer might fit into that bill. But two Albuquerque employees say they were reprimanded in accordance with company policy for speaking Spanish in front of customers. Now, as you might imagine, that set off a wave of criticism from LULAC to the ACLU here and beyond. Whole Foods says that's not exactly what happened. All the same, the company revisited a policy asking employees to speak English in front of customers unless shoppers are more comfortable with another language. Now, Tom, from your gut, I always love it when you're here for these moments because it takes a little bit of a gut feel. Initial policy was just misguided, misconstrued, just a complete miss altogether. What was your gut reaction when you went in and read that policy, that old policy?
There's an old adage, good policy fosters good public relations.
Okay.
In this case, I don't think anybody read the policy in a number of years, maybe a decade or more, and realized that, oh my gosh, we really need to update this and make it more relevant and culturally sensitive. I was really surprised, and I think that the reaction kind of surprised Whole Foods because you figure the first national expose of this happened in late May. USA Today picked it up in June. About June 6th time frame. Okay. And they didn't do, Whole Foods didn't do anything until June 14th. Huh. And so it's not like that they weren't aware that this situation had festered.
Sure.
It had. They just didn't have a way to respond to it or think that it would probably blow up into something. So they were clearly on their heels from a public relations perspective. How they remedied it in the end, I think, was good, but I think it sends a warning shot across the bow of every HR department to say, please review your HR policies. Make sure you're not out of date and culturally irrelevant.
They're out of Austin, Texas. They are not unfamiliar with Spanish language. This is what confuses me about this whole thing.
Yeah, Austin, the most liberal, progressive, fun town outside of Fort Worth in the state of Texas.
Wow.
I mean, it really is. It's a great place to be. And outside, well, I gotta go Frogs. But it's a great place to be, and you would have figured that somebody there would have picked up on it.
Yeah.
I mean, Austin, Boulder, very similar kind of areas, and you just would have thought somebody would have picked this up.
That's right. Laura, let me read you something. Team member handbook wording in place until June of this year that Tom just mentioned. The old wording, one of the bullet points, if you speak English and are in the presence of customers, it is essential that the conversation be in English. Second bullet, if you speak English and are in the presence of team members, it is essential that the conversation be in English anytime you are on the clock and discussing work-related tasks or subjects. Remember to treat your workers with the same respect you would extend to a customer. That sounds to me like that's a problem begging to happen because that leaves a whole lot of wiggle room on why someone chooses to speak Spanish or English, the reasons, and quite frankly, who feels left out and who has the power to do something about it. Right. I'm curious how it hits you.
It hits me as racist. I mean, it hits me as discriminatory in terms of national origin and cultural background. I think that's a real problem. Right. I think that if you have to have a policy like this, then you have assumed some kind of a problem that's going to come up. And given that they're in Austin, they should be, recognizing, the obvious immigrants in that area and other cultural issues would be, Spanish-speaking people, people from Latin America and so forth. So I think that there's a real problem with this policy, and it seems unnecessary. I mean, I just, having done a fair amount of teaching of MBA students on employment practices, this is a terrible policy. I mean, it basically smacks of discrimination, and it could get you into some serious hot water. And I'm just shocked that an organization like this could have something like this on the books, and then to address it in the way that they did by dismissing, or putting two of their employees on paid leave, even if it was paid leave for insubordination, essentially, is what they're claiming. It's just bad PR. It's terrible, and it makes me really unhappy that I've even shopped at Whole Foods at this point, and I don't intend to do so in the future. Never mind that they're pretty pricey as well. So,
there you go. But you wouldn't be alone. There's a big protest. There's been a big reaction, Steve, to this. Obviously, not just here in New Mexico, but this is a New Mexico story. We've had this problem before with other employees demanding English only in many bizarre ways, too. It's very unfortunate.
I'm sitting here in a panel with at least two people in public relations pros. So I'm going to play amateur public relations guy. This has been a disaster. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. A public relations disaster for Whole Foods. If I was in charge of their PR, I'd say, what we're going to do now, we're going to change the policy, of course. I like the part of the policy that says you may speak Spanish at home, and when you're not on the clock, that's very big of them.
Right.
Mighty white of them.
As they used to say, right. And this gets to the point about power, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's how it rings me the same way it kind of rang with Laura. That you've got an overwhelming presence here dictating to other people when they can or cannot speak a native language or not. Again, it's begging for a
they've got
problem.
to change that, and I'm sure they will if they haven't already. If I was in charge of their PR, though, I would say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer free English classes for all Spanish speakers who want to learn to speak English. That would be a good deal. It would help communication and certainly help repair a little bit of their bad PR.
Chris, let me read something to you from the old policy. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. The old policy they've changed. It goes on to say, for example, we all want to be sure that our food is prepared according to the proper recipes, the cleaning products, and handled safely, that our customers and fellow team members don't wonder if they are the quote, and there's quotes in here, butt of the joke when a group is laughing nearby at something said in a language they don't understand. Why is that anybody else's business? I don't understand why even the paranoid idea that somebody could be the butt of the joke. Maybe they're joke worthy. I mean, who cares what language it's in? You know what I mean? How does that hit you, that particular part of the old policy?
I mean, the whole policy was outrageous. It strikes me as, why did it take so long for this to come out in the first place? I can't believe it, barely came out now. And just to buttress what Steve and Tom were saying from a PR standpoint, what a nightmare. What they should have done is release all the information early on. Instead, there was a lot of conflicting reports when the two individuals came out and said they were suspended for speaking a different language. Then they called the spokesperson in Austin, and she said, we have no such policy like that.
Right.
But in the same story, they called the regional spokesman who clearly hadn't connected with the headquarters, and he said, well, yeah, of course we have a policy in place like that. Like it's a no-brainer.
That's right.
And then, as Tom was pointing out, then it takes 7 days for them to actually come out and say, okay, yes, we do have a policy like this. We were wrong, and this is what we're going to do to rectify it.
Let's talk about how this gets handled moving forward, not just certainly Whole Foods, but this is a problem we have had in the past with other type situations in New Mexico. I'll stay with you, Chris, to start this off. It's a changing world, a changing country, it's a changing state we're in right here. How do employers work with this, the idea of an international multicultural workforce? What kind of policies do make sense instead?
Well, the thing about New Mexico is we're so diverse, and we have such a rich culture and rich diversity, and it was heartbreaking to watch the news story with with the employee who was suspended for speaking his language, and I thought that was just incredibly insensitive of Whole Foods to even have that policy in place, and I think they're taking the right steps by meeting with different Hispanic organizations to see how they can solve this issue in the future. So it'll be interesting to see what other steps they'll take as well.
Steve, is it just the idea, just let your employees do and speak what they want? It's your employees. Does it really matter to have a language policy? Should we have one moving forward at all for any reason whatsoever?
If you're dealing directly with the public and like you're a cashier, you need to be able to speak with them. Maybe that's legit. But just for a couple of employees, who aren't, out in the public eye really that much. That's
right.
Yeah, I think it's a silly policy, and probably is rooted in racism, and conscious or not. So
We have some groups on the scene. Lawsuits may happen. You never know. No one's saying it, but you never know. What do you think the solution is for moving forward?
Well, I mean, there is a long line of cases related to Title VII protections under the Civil Rights Act, and essentially federal case law that talks about not discriminating based on national origin in the workplace. It's a lot of employment law related issues, and the restriction on speaking a native language is part of that legal discourse. And there were a couple of very interesting reviews about New Mexico's history with English only and recognizing Spanish and other native languages as official languages. It's part of our Constitution. We we basically acknowledge that it's not English only. There's been attempts to try to change that, but it hasn't happened. I mean, culturally, we value other languages in this state. Ruben Navarrete did a very good, and he's a syndicated columnist, does stuff for CNN also, and he did a very good review of the history of New Mexico's policies with regard to English. And then Margaret Montoya, who used to be on this show, also did an op-ed yesterday talking about the history of New Mexico's language policy. So I think they really did a bad job as a company in terms of not understanding the area where they work. And had this happened in the Bay Area, where you have a ton of a lot of Asian folks, a ton of other peoples who all speak different languages. I mean, this would be a nightmare, and they really would have, I think, understood better that those areas are rich with different cultures. They should have understood that about New Mexico as
The
well.
idea of a blanket policy to cover every state, every store in the nation, right off the bat is a non-starter.
It's ignorant.
It's crazy.
It's
absolutely
ignorant
crazy.
as a business.
Good discussion on this one. Very, very troubling. By the way, I am a board member of the ACLU of New Mexico, so I want to make that disclosure. Now, just after the break, we're talking water with two men who have been following water policy throughout their careers. We'll be back with this group in a few minutes.